Normally, we used to try to always bring as much into this year as we could each year. But now, let's say on your contributions to the church or on things, if you're borderline on that $24,000, you're going to be better off to bunch your deductions. In other words, you probably be better off to go every other year on giving big contributions to the church. In other words, if you, of course, you should tithe, but if you have a big contribution you're going to give, and you give each year, I would suggest you do one on January 1st and one on December 31st of this year, and leave this year with none. That way, because you're on a tax basis, so it's when you write, when you give the money. So you get two of the big contributions in 1 year, so that it beats the $24,000 in that year, since they're giving you the $24,000 in this year. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I think you need to bunch the deductions. Another thing, as far as business people go, Section 179 is a tax break, and people who are in business, most of them will know what that is by now. But basically, that is an immediate expensing of capital purchases. If you go out and buy equipment and buy things that you need for your business, instead of having to depreciate them over a number of years, you can take those in this year. That's still available. That part didn't change. Like-kind exchanges for equipment did change, but it's effectively going to be the same. They changed the rules a little bit, but effectively you're still going to have, although what you trade in now will be considered income, and what you buy will be considered a deduction, as opposed to in previous years what you traded in was non-taxable, and you only got to deduct the difference between the trade and the boot, in effect. So the net deduction is still going to be the same. You have to be careful about, for some businesses, you have to be careful because there are limitations. I think the numbers are like 2.5 million. You can't go over that in buying equipment in a year. So some of the larger companies have to be careful not to buy too much in 1 year, or it's counterproductive for Section 179.
Does that go along with your bunching?
No, I think that should be done every year.
Oh,
okay. If you need equipment as a business, and this is one of the things that has been good for the economy over the years, and it's still a good thing because it allows companies, basically, in a nutshell, if you're in a high tax bracket, say you're in a company that makes a lot of money and you own it, and you're in a 38% bracket, if you can go buy a $100,000 piece of equipment, then you'll get a $38,000 tax savings. And so effectively the government helps pay for new equipment. But not only that, some company down the road is getting $100,000 for selling a piece of equipment, and they're paying people to make it. So it keeps the economy running better. So it's a good part of the law, and it's still there. So that's a good thing. When they go to file their return, some people didn't change the tables.
Yeah,
some people continued deducting the same amount. Some payroll companies didn't, some softwares didn't. They just continued the same. But the tax rates did change. And so when you file your return this year, you will see the difference. In other words, if everything else stayed the same, and if the itemized deductions changes don't hit you in an adverse way, then you should pay less tax on the same income this year as you did last year.
Okay.
So, because the rates did drop. So if you've had the same withholding on the same amount of pay in 18 as you had in 17, you should get a bigger refund. The rates dropped, and the standard deduction went up. So there is some cases where because they did away with the exemptions. Okay, so if you had 6 kids, 8 kids, if you got a whole lot of kids, you're not going to get an exemption for each one of those anymore. So in that particular case, it could be that they would owe. Okay, if you have a whole lot of kids that you normally get deductions for them, okay, now you won't. So because they've done away with that part. But you're getting $24,000 again. You're getting $24,000 standard deduction, which is way higher than what it was. So it'll offset some of it. But there is a possibility, I guess, in that case that they could owe some more. But they'll find out when they do their tax returns.
I guess we'll see.
And then I would suggest here's the thing, if you come up owing money, okay, and you don't have the money to pay it, okay, the IRS is not going to put you in jail. All you have to do is send a form in. You can send it in with your return, or you can go online to irs.gov, and they will accept an installment agreement, particularly if you can show, that the tax law changed and you didn't realize it. And they would take installment payments over a year or two to collect that in. But then what I would do is I would immediately go and adjust my withholdings for 19, if that's the case. I never advise clients to give away $1 to save 30 cents in taxes. If it's $1 you're going to give away anyway, whether it be for an expense or whether it be for equipment or whether it be to the church or to some other charity, if it's $1 that you're going to give anyway, that you believe in it, then go ahead and do it and bunch it into 1 year. But I explain to people all the time, they're like, well, how do I keep from paying this $20,000 I'm going to owe in taxes? Well, you have to have $60,000 more in expenses. Okay? But is that really what you want? You want to give up $60,000 to save 20? Doesn't really make sense. So, sometimes it's not best. Sometimes you just pay your taxes and go on.